I'm Mike, and welcome to Navy Network. Right now, more than 4,500 Americans are living their entire lives in the middle of the ocean. They are not passengers on a cruise ship. They are sailors, aviators, and Marines serving aboard a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. This ship is a floating city, larger than many towns back on land. It carries its own power plant, its own water supply, its own hospital, and every system required to support 5,000 people for months at a time. The sheer scale is staggering. The ship stretches over 1,000 feet from bow to stern, longer than the Empire State Building is tall. It towers more than 20 stories above the waterline. Fully loaded, it displaces 100,000 tons. And yet, it moves through the ocean at over 30 knots, cutting across the seas with an entire community living aboard. The United States operates 11 of these nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. They represent the absolute peak of naval engineering and military power. Each one costs more than $13 billion to build and nearly a decade to construct. But what makes them truly remarkable isn't only the advanced technology. It's how 5,000 men and women manage to live, eat, sleep, and work in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by nothing but water for thousands of miles. So how does this floating city actually function? How does it feed thousands of people, house them, provide power, keep them healthy, and launch combat aircraft at the same time? The answers reveal a world that is as complex as it is extraordinary. Let's start with something every human being needs: food. Feeding 5,000 people every single day requires a level of logistics that is almost impossible to imagine. On a carrier, the kitchens, called galleys, never close. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Navy cooks are preparing meals. Together, they serve around 17,000 to 18,000 meals daily. That number is real. 18,000 plates of food produced at sea while jets thunder off the deck above. The ship stores enough provisions to feed a small town for months. Deep below decks are refrigerated warehouses packed with thousands of pounds of frozen meat, poultry, seafood, fresh fruits, vegetables, dairy, rice, coffee, and dry goods. Every square foot of storage is carefully managed so the crew has a balanced diet day after day. And the food is better than most expect. Navy culinary specialists train at professional schools. Some have even competed in cooking competitions. Fresh bread is baked daily. There are themed meals like Taco Tuesday and Pizza Friday. On holidays, the crew may be treated to steak or lobster. These meals are not about luxury. They are about morale. A hot, tasty meal makes long deployments tolerable. Meal service itself is a carefully orchestrated operation. Sailors line up with trays as cooks dish out hot food in seconds. Hundreds of sailors can move through a serving line in just a few minutes, eating quickly before returning to duty. Then the cycle begins again for the next shift. Efficiency is everything because the galleys feed thousands around the clock. But food is only one part of survival. After long shifts, every sailor needs a place to sleep. Space aboard a carrier is incredibly limited, despite its size. Enlisted sailors sleep in berthings, compartments lined with bunks stacked 3 high. Each bunk is called a rack. A rack is barely big enough for one person to lie down. A thin mattress, a curtain for privacy, a reading light, and a small locker underneath make up a sailor's entire personal space. Photos, headphones, or a favorite book are often the only comforts from home. Dozens of sailors share each compartment. Privacy is rare. The unwritten rules of shipboard life are simple. Keep quiet, don't slam lockers, and respect others' limited space. Officers have slightly more room. Junior officers may share small staterooms, while senior officers have individual cabins with a desk and bunk. Even the captain's quarters, the largest private space on board, would feel cramped compared to a small apartment ashore. But after 12 or 14 hours of exhausting work, no one complains. The constant hum of machinery, the vibration of engines, and the thud of aircraft above fade into background noise. Most sailors fall asleep within minutes of lying down. Exhaustion makes even the smallest rack feel like home. Life aboard is not just about sleeping and eating. The heart of the ship is work. A carrier never stops operating. Every hour of every day, 5,000 people are working, standing watch, or training. The most intense workplace is the flight deck, often called the most dangerous 4 acres on Earth. Here, fighter jets weighing tens of thousands of pounds are catapulted into the sky every 30 to 45 seconds. Others slam down onto the deck, caught by arresting cables. All of it happens amid deafening noise, jet exhaust, and whipping winds. Deck crews wear colored jerseys that identify their jobs. Yellow shirts direct aircraft. Purple shirts refuel them. Red shirts handle ordnance. Green shirts run the catapults and arresting gear. Blue shirts move chocks and chains. Each color represents a specialty, and each role is critical. One mistake on the flight deck can be fatal, which is why absolute discipline and coordination are enforced. Below the deck, the ship is a hive of activity. Mechanics in the hangar bay repair aircraft. Engineers deep in the hull monitor the nuclear reactors. Technicians maintain radar and communication systems. Sailors clean, paint, and inspect thousands of compartments to keep the ship seaworthy. Every system has its crew, and every crew has its routine. Shifts often last 12 hours or more. Watches are rotated around the clock. Sleep schedules are irregular. Life becomes a cycle of work, eat, sleep, and repeat. Yet pride in the mission keeps morale high. Whether a sailor is fueling a jet, fixing a pipe, or operating a radar console, they know their work is part of something larger. The ship cannot function without every role being performed. At the core of the ship's power are its nuclear reactors. Deep within the carrier are 2 nuclear reactors that produce virtually unlimited energy. Together, they generate hundreds of megawatts of power. They propel the ship at speeds over 30 knots and provide electricity for every system on board. Unlike conventional ships, a nuclear carrier never needs to refuel its engines. The reactors can operate for more than 20 years without replacing fuel. The only resupply the ship requires is food and jet fuel. The reactor department is staffed by some of the Navy's most highly trained personnel. Reactor operators undergo years of intensive schooling. They monitor gauges, adjust valves, and manage the complex systems that convert nuclear heat into steam. That steam turns turbines that drive the propellers and power the ship's generators. Safety is paramount. Layers of shielding and redundant systems protect the crew. Most sailors will never see the reactors, but everyone depends on their steady operation. Another miracle of engineering is water. Surrounded by ocean, the carrier produces its own fresh water. Desalination plants convert seawater into more than 200,000 gallons of clean water every day. This water is used for drinking, cooking, showers, and laundry. Sailors are taught to conserve, taking short Navy showers and using water carefully. But the desalination systems ensure that the crew never runs dry, no matter how long the deployment. With food, water, and power handled, what about waste? A city of 5,000 produces enormous amounts of trash. The carrier has to manage it all without polluting the sea. Food waste can be ground and discharged far from land, where it safely decomposes. Paper and other burnables are incinerated. Metals are compacted into bricks. Plastics are melted into discs. Everything is stored until the ship returns to port. Sewage is treated on board to meet strict environmental standards. Waste management is a daily task that keeps the ship clean and the ocean safe. Medical care is another essential service. The ship has a hospital known as the Medical Bay, staffed by doctors, nurses, and corpsmen. It includes an operating room, a pharmacy, a dental clinic, and wards for patients. Routine illnesses like colds, infections, and sprains are treated daily. But the medical team is also ready for emergencies. Flight deck accidents, fires, or combat injuries could produce multiple casualties. The crew trains constantly for mass casualty events, running drills so they are prepared for the worst. If a sailor requires care beyond what the ship can provide, a helicopter evacuation may be arranged. But most of the time, the carrier's medical team can stabilize and treat patients until the ship reaches port. Knowing that skilled doctors are on board gives sailors confidence, even in the middle of the ocean. Communication is just as vital as medicine. Externally, the ship maintains constant contact with other vessels, aircraft, and Navy command through radio and satellite links. Secure data streams provide real-time information sharing across the globe. Orders can be received and missions coordinated instantly, even from thousands of miles away. Internally, communication is equally important. The 1MC public address system echoes through the ship's corridors day and night, announcing drills, emergencies, or routine information. Each department uses phones and intercoms to stay connected. In a maze of steel passageways, reliable communication keeps the crew synchronized. For personal communication, internet access is limited. Sailors may send brief emails or receive messages from home. Mail call, when letters and packages arrive with supply flights, is a cherished event. These small connections to loved ones mean everything during long months at sea. Even the largest ship must face the power of the ocean. Storms test the carrier's stability. Waves over 30 feet high can crash across the bow. The ship pitches and rolls, and flight operations may pause. Sailors secure loose equipment, double-chain aircraft, and close watertight doors. Seasickness can affect even experienced crew members, but carriers are designed to endure. Their massive size and hull shape keep them steady in rough seas. Storms pass, and operations resume as if nothing happened. Maintenance is constant. The ocean is unforgiving, and salt water corrodes everything. Sailors spend endless hours painting, scrubbing, and repairing. Catapults and arresting gear are inspected daily. Engines and generators are monitored around the clock. Spare parts are stocked, and workshops can fabricate replacements if needed. The saying goes, if it moves, salute it. If it doesn't, paint it. Preventive maintenance ensures that the ship remains ready at all times. Training never stops either. Every sailor must be prepared for emergencies. Firefighting drills, flooding drills, and man-overboard drills are routine. In general quarters drills, the entire crew rushes to battle stations as if under attack. These rehearsals ensure that when a real crisis occurs, everyone knows their role. On a ship this large, discipline and training are the difference between chaos and survival. Despite the relentless pace, there is life beyond work. In rare free hours, sailors find ways to relax. Gyms allow for exercise. Recreation rooms host movies, video games, or card games. Chaplains offer spiritual support. Sometimes the crew enjoys special events like steel beach picnics, barbecues on the flight deck during calm weather. Holidays are marked with celebrations, and when the ship visits a foreign port, liberty ashore provides a welcome escape from steel walls. Morale is sustained by camaraderie. Living and working together for months builds bonds stronger than family. Shipmates celebrate birthdays, share hardships, and support each other through long deployments. This sense of community keeps spirits high, even when far from home. Technology continues to evolve on modern carriers. Newer ships like the Gerald R. Ford use electromagnetic launch systems instead of steam catapults. Advanced arresting gear recovers landing jets more efficiently. State-of-the-art radar tracks hundreds of targets simultaneously. Nuclear reactors provide surplus power for future systems, including potential directed energy weapons. Automation reduces manpower for certain tasks, but human skill remains irreplaceable. The carrier is a marvel of technology, but it is the crew that brings it to life. Above all, carriers are strategic assets. With the ability to launch dozens of aircraft, a carrier is a mobile airbase that can operate anywhere in the world's oceans. It represents power projection, deterrence, and rapid response. Just the presence of a carrier strike group can influence international events. Allies see reassurance. Adversaries see a warning. But the true strength of a carrier is not its steel, its reactors, or its aircraft. It is the 5,000 men and women who live and work aboard. Every meal served, every watch stood, every jet launched depends on their discipline and sacrifice. They live in cramped racks, far from families, working endless hours to keep the ship ready. They are the heart of the floating city. As we step back from this massive warship, we should remember, it is not just a machine of war. It is a home, a workplace, a community, and a symbol. A city at sea crewed by Americans who dedicate their lives to serving their nation on the world's oceans. I'm Mike. Thanks for watching Navy Network. Subscribe now so you won't miss the next story.